Hello everybody, it's me, GhostCritic. It's a Sunday, it's a comic book review video. And again, it was a short week for me with only 4 books, so hopefully, for you probably, are thinking, oh good, this will be a nice short video for me to fit in watching whatever else you're doing. And there is not a lot to say about a couple of the books this week because they were just okay. But certainly there were some books that have got everybody talking, and we'll get to that very soon. But let's just crack on with it, and we'll start off with a book that I least enjoyed but was still entertaining enough. It's not like I'm going to be dropping this book anytime soon, but it is The Flash, DC's Joshua Williamson pen title, issue 28, part 1 of Negative. And we're kind of seeing the repercussions of having been trapped, if only for a brief time, in this negative speed force zone area that has kind of transformed Barry into this more darker character. And we see the implications of him now using these powers that he's not quite sure of. Before, when he was just brightly coloured Flash, you know, he zipped around and didn't seem to do much damage to the surroundings that he was running about in, but in his new darker guise, he seems to be literally tearing up the streets he's running on. And although there's kind of a little bit of action, there's the Flash taking down this kind of super-powered motorcycle gang, there's a lot of standing around and talking as Barry Allen, along with one of his colleagues and a couple of other random people, are taken into the office of his boss, because these 4 people are the ones he trusts the most. Apparently there's a mole within the company, within the police precinct. And obviously Barry is not there. You know, he's not in the moment, he's not present, because he's thinking about how awful his life is, trying to work out what his powers can and can't do. There is this element of apathy about it all, which I'm guessing is linked to this whole use of the negative speed force. But to me, it was just like a story that I'd read time and time again, not just you know, acquiring these new powers, but just in general, when a superhero gets some new powers and tries to work out how it, you know, works. But I've read it before, and they didn't feel a lot of new stuff in here. They throw in another villain at the end in Shrapnel, but there wasn't any kind of consequence, I felt, to it. But it's, like I said, I've never got the Flash in a kind of ongoing title on his own until this series. I have really been enjoying it. I think that speed of Josh Williamson's stories that have been coming out is actually starting to maybe slow down a bit, and we're getting to the more predictable storyline. So I hope that Joshua has got something up his sleeve to make this particular storyline kind of turn the corner and become something a little bit more exciting. Moving on to Rick Mendes' Low, issue 19, and this felt like it was an ending to the current story arc. You never know when the next one is coming out with Low. Its solicitations are so sporadic that, you know, this could now be on a legitimate hiatus, but who knows. This, like I said, it kind of wraps up the latest storyline. We're back in Salas, which is kind of like the last underwater city, I guess you call it. But even time for that is running out, so all the people in power and all the rich people, I guess you'd call them, of this city are just being as debauched and decadent as they possibly can, and of course that must include lots of like kind of sexual orgies with naked bodies flying here, there and everywhere. But it's up to Tajo to lead the revolution of all the people outside who are battering down the doors to turn the tide, so to speak, no pun intended. But this seems to be going into new areas now. I mean, we've always had that element where of hope in this book, that however bad things get, however unlikely it seems that the human civilization is not going to survive, and there isn't this kind of paradise land for them to move to. We always have a character, we've had the mother of Tajo being that beacon of hope and light, in trying to instill that courage of moving on with their lives and finding new places to live and not just wait for life to gradually ebb out. So Tajo now has kind of taken that mantle on, because who knows what's happened to Mummy Dearest. It's been a long time since we've seen her in this. I kind of recall that she might have been killed the last time we saw her, whether it was from kind of like the radiation on the surface or she was captured and killed. It's been that long. But we do now seem to have, from living underwater to coming up to earth, to like above water, to these cities on the surface that can now breathe. We seem to be going even further, and it looks like the next story arc could be set in space, which kind of makes the title a bit strange now, because we ain't low anymore, we're getting higher and higher. Ticini's artwork is always great on this book. I've always admired the aesthetics and the style that he's brought to this book, and the colouring that we've now got in here from McCaig joining the book, probably helping it come out a lot sooner. But I know from reading a lot of people's comments on this that they've dropped it and they're going to read it in trade, and I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. Given how often this book comes out, you might as well just wait for the trade and read the latest story arc all in one. However, I'm the kind of guy that it's either a single issue that I'm going to collect the series in, or I'm going to collect it in trade. I can't mix the two. That's just, my quirk. I can't do it. That's just the way I am. So Low will be on my pull list as single issues until Remender decides to call it a day and wrap up this storyline. But really enjoyed it. Now, before we look at the my personal pick of the week, let's talk about DC's Mr. Miracle, issue 1 of a 12-issue maxi series, and I've seen you all out there with your thumbnails with this cover front and centre. I've seen all the headlines and on the websites giving it 9 and 10 out of 10s, saying this is the best comic ever. It's meant to be this amazing hot book that's it's $30-40 already on eBay, which is just ridiculous. Just go to your shop and buy it for the cover price. And I enjoyed it. I did. This is why it's like the penultimate book. However, I feel it suffers from what I call the Watchmen syndrome. That's where you take a character that generally is known as, it's the high adventure comic book character, escaping death. It's exciting, it's fun, it's bright, it's brash. and we have to kind of flip it over and make it as grim and dark and gritty as we possibly can. And Tom King and Mitch Gerard do exactly that with this. You turn over the first page to the first double spread, and you have Mr. Miracle slouched against a kind of bathroom wall next to the toilet, having tried to commit suicide. And it doesn't get much brighter from then on. And I just, why we have to, when we pick up a new character, that we have to automatically default. Yes, it's great to have a new perspective on a character that goes back decades, but why is that default have to go full 180 degrees from fun, exciting, adventurous to this grim, insular, adult storyline, this mature setting? I don't always need that. You can tell us a different story with a character without having to go to that extreme. And I have to say, when I read this first, I read it twice. The first time, purely read it for the entertainment value, because that's why I read my comic books. And then when I read it a second time, it kind of reminded me a great deal of Marvel's Moon Knight, in the sense that you're not quite sure what's real and what's not. And I'm talking about the one that's just gone from Jeff Lemire and Greg Smallwood. You're not quite sure who's real, who's not. There are elements of perhaps that Mr. Miracle is actually talking to himself. I think is it Merle? I think the character's name is called. He seems to be having a conversation with him, but Big Barda is like, well, he died months ago. Who were you talking to? And it's all very kind of has Mr. Miracle gone, you know, a little bit crazy. I like the elements that it draws in from, you know, this whole fourth world new gods environment, as we've got Darkseid ever present within this book. Even if it's only the same words repeated again and again and again, you know he's there in the background somewhere. But what Tom King's done is draw on elements from the original storyline that uses Darkseid and his attempts to solve the anti-life equation, and apparently he's found it out now, and that leads Mr. Miracle and Big Barda to go back to through a boom tube to their kind of home planet, I guess you call it, and help the High Father out in taking it down, taking Darkseid down, I presume, because the issue finishes as they, you know, boom off to gather the troops. The artwork clearly fits this grim and gritty book. It's like you see everything through a kind of distorted TV image. It's very kind of socially aware, like, when I say that, I mean kind of like the way TV works, you know, social media and all that kind of stuff. It's very of the now, and I guess, you know, people draw on what is going on in the world today, and, you know, there are places in the world that don't have it so good, and kind of humanity seems to be falling apart and turning in on itself. But I was just hoping for something fun, not necessarily frivolous, but just a little bit more adventure type story, more in keeping with the stories that, you know, the likes of Kirby used to write with this character. But that's not what we have here. It doesn't mean that it's any more enjoyable than it has been in the past. I should have expected it. I should have expected this to go down the kind of Watchmen route, where you kind of disassemble this character, Mr. Miracle, as he kind of tries to cheat the kind of ultimate escape scenario, and that is, you know, cheating death, but we don't even know if he has or not. So yes, it's going on my pull list. I want to read this story, and I'll see it through to this final 12th issue of this run. And we'll see where it goes. Anyway, on to my final and personal pick of the week. It had to be number 11 of Kill or Be Killed, the super creative team of Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips and Elizabeth Wright-Weiser. Oh, this book gets so good, and it just turns and flips the reader's expectations time and time again. Right at the beginning of this book, it goes right back to the very first issue where Dylan is right now, and I think that's probably what a lot of people reading this may have actually forgotten, that the point this book starts is how the very first issue started, and everything that has come between issue 1 and issue 11 has been this humongously long flashback, and I thought that was a great way to tell the story, and it pushes the next element of this this title on, and moves these characters on as we see him taking down the rest of this kind of, I think they're like the Russian mob gang that are after him, and then through all this violence and the action, it actually becomes incredibly sedate as Dylan decides to put this all behind him now, and go back on his meds and just lead that normal life. And everything does seem to be normal. He is going back to see his psychiatrist, his doctor, maybe perhaps not telling him everything, which clearly you wouldn't. You wouldn't go around to your psychiatrist and say, look, I'm a emerging sociopath, but it's the demons in my head that made me do it. Not the best thing to say, but he's connecting back with characters such as his kind of erstwhile ex-girlfriend Kira, best friend type of person, and they seem to be rebonding. The time between kind of obviously seeing his father's artwork in this art gallery from his then girlfriend, I think her name was Daisy, they've now split up because she used his work without asking Dylan first. And we just see him living his life, which kind of maybe sounds a bit boring, but it's not, because you get to see him now thinking in his mind, you know, and trying, as we the reader have done for issue after issue, has this all been in his head? Is it because now that he's back on his meds that things have cleared up now, and it was just a strange kind of, after his bump on the head after trying to kill himself right very early on, that has caused all this vigilantism, for want of a better word. He gets to the point where he actually sends the is it the New York Post, or you know, the local big paper, a letter saying he's now going to stop, hoping that will ease the pressure of them looking for him, and make them think he's now left town and moved on somewhere else. When I first read that, I kind of thought, oh, now I can see certain people are going to read that and want to take over from him, even to become that person to mete out justice, vigilante style, and so would probably cause more killings than he actually wants to stop them now. But then as time goes on, there's an edge to it now. He's starting to feel like he has to kill someone, and he's thinking in his head, well, it's been over a month now, it's been 2 months now, but things are getting a bit squirrely, for want of a better word again. And he kind of rationalizes it in his head that, oh, I actually killed more than one person, so I've had my 2 months off basically now, because he has to kill someone once a month to stay alive, or so the demon says. So that was a kind of nice twist to that. And obviously from there, there's still the ghost, the spectre of the kind of Russian mob trying to find him through his best friend Kira, and so he puts paid to the person following him, and the violence is back again. So we will now see how Dylan deals with the rationale he's put behind himself, that is this demon actually real, or is he actually just enjoying the violence now? He's enjoying killing out and putting his stamp on the crime world and giving the justice to these people and what they deserve in life, which clearly is killing them. Great book, I love it. Phillips, Bright Vicer, always just hit it out of the park with these great environments that feel real. They feel like you could just walk down them yourself. The colours from Bright Vicer, perfect. Just love this book to pieces. And if you've not been picking this up, there is, I think there's 2 books, maybe one book, maybe one collecting of the first kind of long story arc. There must be another one coming up, because this is the start of the 3rd story arc. So go find them, catch up, and just enjoy this great kind of pulpy noir tale told in present day time. So brilliant stuff. My personal pick of the week. And that's it, I'm afraid. I hope you enjoyed my reviews. Please let me know in the comment section down below what you thought of any of those books that I picked up, if you've been reading them too. What was your pick of the week this week? Again, let me know down there. Don't forget to subscribe. If you subscribe to my channel before Wednesday, you'll get a shout out in next Wednesday's video. And give this video a big thumbs up to let me know you liked it and you want to see more. Until then, thank you all for watching. Bye bye.